As if right out of the script of the movie Secondhand Lions, starring Robert Duvall and Michael Caine, it seems that famous dirt track racer Scott Bloomquist has decided to go out with his boots on. Here's what we know so far. Starting with the Aviation Safety Network, Friday, 16 August, a Piper J-3C 65 horsepower Cub, November 21811, serial number 2587. I believe this was a pre-war 1938 Cub, one fatality destroyed near Mooresburg, Tennessee. A Piper J-3 Cub, November 21811, was destroyed when it crashed into a barn, and a post-crash fire ensued near Mooresburg, Tennessee. The pilot, race car driver Scott Bloomquist, perished in the accident. The aircraft's registration was canceled back in 2012, and the pilot did not hold a pilot's license. Here's a picture of the Cub into the side of the barn and the post-crash fire. Investigators will be looking at the control continuity of the aircraft and looking for any evidence of loss of control of the aircraft while on takeoff or landing. Here's a picture of the family farm where Scott kept the Cub, and here's where the barn is located that Scott struck. Now, Scott was born in 1963, and he was inducted in the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame in 2022 and was the owner of the Dirt Late Model chassis manufacturer Team Zero Race Cars. Scott's dad was a Air Cal pilot. Air Cal was a unique small airline out here in California that hired a lot of characters to fly their aircraft, and I got to know a lot of these pilots. I don't remember Bloomquist specifically, but a lot of those pilots from Air Cal were into racing, and in fact, I palled around with a bunch of them, Mike Penketh and Obie O'Brien, and we all got involved in biplane racing up at the Reno National Championship air races. So it doesn't surprise me that Bloomquist's dad took a stab at racing and ended up giving that race car to Scott, the son, and Scott turned that into a lifelong passion and career in dirt track racing. Scott suffered a number of injuries both on and off the track and had some pretty serious back problems late in his career, and then in 2019 had a serious motorcycle accident in Daytona Beach, Florida, affecting his legs and hips, putting him in a situation of a lot of pain. Then in 2023, Bloomquist was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and previously needed back surgery was put on hold for the cancer treatment, so he had to prolong the pain of the back injuries in order to deal with the prostate cancer. Being a prostate cancer survivor myself, now nearly 4 or 5 years with virtually undetectable PSA levels following a radical prostatectomy, I can tell you that it is a journey going through prostate cancer, and it can be dealt with, especially if you catch it early enough. But coupling that along with the pain of his injuries, I could see that Scott was in a very dark spot. And having watched my father die of prostate cancer slowly, when it came to my turn, I dealt with it very aggressively. Now here's some more information on the Piper J-3 Cub, the same type of aircraft that Scott was flying at the time of his crash, and an aircraft that I also own. This is our beautifully restored 1947 J-3 Cub with an 85 horse Continental engine, and it's better known as the aircraft that will almost kill you because of its low performance capability. Everything in the Cub is done at about 60 miles an hour. Climb, cruise, in the pattern. It'll land as low as 40 miles an hour or less. Nevertheless, the Cub makes a fantastic trainer teaching the basic stick and rudder skills that every pilot needs. Now the Cub is soloed from the back seat in order to make the center of gravity work out. And one of the features of these older Cubs, and more likely was the case with Scott's Cub, is there is usually no shoulder harnesses. If there's shoulder harnesses, they had to have been retrofitted long after the aircraft was built, because in stock configuration there are no shoulder harnesses in the Cub. And Scott's a big guy, kind of like me, and so just one of us in the Cub is putting the Cub pretty close to its maximum gross weight. Forward visibility out of the Cub is somewhat limited on the ground because of its tail dragger configuration, but once you get in the air, you lift the tail, lower the nose, and visibility over the nose is fine. Meanwhile, taxiing on the ground, you can easily look around the side of the Cub or do S-turns to see what's directly in front of you. The Cub is operated with a traditional stick and rudder and throttle on the left and has a dual set of controls both front and rear. Instruments are located in the front cockpit, and the fuel tank is located just ahead of the front instrument panel, 12 gallons of fuel. Some Cubs are modified to have additional fuel in the left wing. The low performance characteristics of the J-3 Cub come from its large wing area, light wing loading, high drag design, coupled with the 65 horse engine. Now, Scott never got a pilot's license and the aircraft was not registered. This is more common than you might think here in the United States, and especially up in states like Alaska, where folks just own and operate their own private aircraft, especially off of their own private farm, and don't really go anywhere with the particular aircraft to just fly it around locally. And investigators will look into all of that, and it may have very little bearing onto the outcome of this crash, other than it's another indication that Scott was a man that lived under his own terms, his own rules. Prostate cancer, when coupled with the other injuries that he suffered and possible financial problems at the time, it's widely believed that Scott took his own life in this crash. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. Know your PSA levels and stay after your own personal health. See you here.